Okay, let's try this again. I screwed up and didn't have my YouTube connection set up right. I believe it's working now. So at least I'm hoping so. Anyway, so I'm going to move on. So welcome to ASN Pull Up a Chair, episode 3. Um, this one was supposed to happen on Tuesday, but it did not due to several reasons that I actually want to talk about in this episode. Um, Episode 3 was supposed to be about a behind the scenes look, and I will still be doing that for sure. Um, I just don't have the mental capacity right now, and I don't want to put on a bad showing of what's behind the scenes. I really want to get deep into that because I think there's a lot I can show what I do, and there's been people asking me to do that. Um, but today I kind of wanted to throw in what's going on mental health wise, because I think it hits a lot of us. And, like Tuesday, I really wanted to do this episode and ended up not doing it due to work. But also, I'm really battling the flu. I'm sure you can hear it. Um, and between those two things, and then just feeling like I was obligated to get this episode out, especially the behind the scenes episode, I just didn't feel like I had it. I had the mental capacity to get that out. And then when I started to think about doing today's episode, I was like, you know what? There's so much around the mental health about all of us, good, bad, good and bad about mental health and how it affects us in gaming. Any of our hobbies, any hobby, that the whole idea of a hobby is to kind of take you away from your current situation, and to give you something to kind of look at differently. And I think that's what most of us use the hobby for. But anyway, wanted to just hit that, talk about that a little bit, talk about sometimes when it's bad. Again, when you feel more obligated, like you got a new game or something, like, God, I got to play this game. I just got in today. It's funny because today, I don't know if this is going to show. Yeah, it does. I just got the Blam from Play, Basketball League of America. I got my cards in today. I'm in a co-op league. And immediately as I'm opening that, I'm feeling like, oh man, I've got to put these into teams. I've got to, do the ripping. I've got to, put them in envelopes. And then I need to do some testing, because, and that's a whole nother show probably, because these are all fictional people. It's not like I can just open this up and go, okay, definitely starting Dennis Johnson, Larry Bird, blah, 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 blah. I have no idea, and it is like a whole nother show. I was thinking about this as I was looking at the cards. There's another big difference between fictional, and I know I'm going off on a tangent now because it's supposed to be about mental health, but I don't care. Another big difference between fictional seasons and live seasons that I don't think I've ever heard talked about was you really need to know the game. It forces you to understand the game and the game's engine and the game's setup. So let's just use this as an exact example. Again, I can't just grab Larry Bird. I'm using Celtics here, but I'm not a Celtic fan, by the way. But I can't just grab Larry Bird, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Robert Parrish, and throw these guys all in the starting lineup, right? I don't know who Dylan Aldridge is, Anthony Brown, Jalen Butler, and I'm just reading off names here in this league, because, or in these cards, because they're fictional. So to know out of these 12 players that they give me for each of these teams, I have to understand what the cards are and what they look like. There's no stats on here. I'm not seeing 22 points a game, 13 assists, blah, blah. There's nothing on here. So I have to know, what the play, because there's like three, for those of you who don't know how, don't have plays, primetime hoops game. There's really kind of three areas. And I got to tell you, I cannot read the writing at the top here, but it's, I think it's playmaking. Yeah. It's in this like cursive or whatever. It's really hard to read. Playmaking, rebound, and shot. are the three kind of major categories. And so if you don't know basketball, I'm not here to help you with that one. That'd be a whole another show. But on this one, those are the three categories. So you need to know, under those they have qualities. And again, this is not going to become a play show, PLAAY with Keith's games, but he uses qualities for his stuff. So I need to know that, hey, what do these cards mean, from a starting lineup perspective. And I do, because I played the game enough with, but running into a fictional league, maybe first with a game that you've never played that game before, that would be really hard to do, because you wouldn't know what any of these are, good or bad, and wouldn't know, hey, this card right here, man, this dude looks really good, where this one here, he's not probably going to get a whole lot of playing time. And it's not simply whoever has the most skills on here is who you use, or there's more to it than that. But again, that's knowing how to run that game. So I think that's something that's missing from fictional leagues, is you really start to know the game better. You have to know the game better in order to be successful using it. And it looks like David dropped by. Hey, David, nice to see you. Good to chat. So this, anyway, so yeah, I'm off on a tangent. Sorry, David. It was supposed to be a mental health show, but I got these cards in today, and I wanted to just throw that in there. That's kind of fictional games do that. They make you get into the engine of the game, the cards of the game, know it better, that kind of thing. So, all right, tangent away. Let's jump into, again, kind of how this mental health piece affects us. Again, good and bad. Let's, always start out with the good, right? For me personally, and anybody wants to jump in and chat, but for me, it provides a structure. Kind of a structure and a routine. If you looked at my desktop right now, you'd see, Hockey Blast on my desk. It's the mat from, again, Play Games. And, I know what to do with that. I know what I'm going to do at the end of my work day. And I did. As soon as my work day finished today, I jumped in and played a game between Boston and St. Louis, my 24 replay. And I got out of work and I put on my Hockey Blast hat, my gaming hat, and I kind of got away from the world of work, what I do, and immediately got into hockey. And it was a nice transition away from work. And it provided, like I said, it kind of provides a structure and routine. I know this will be more part of, I guess, behind the scenes show that I'll do next week. But I know, I know where to pull my teams from. I know what I'm setting up. I know how to set up the hockey mat that's here, get the players down, my whole setup I use Mike Ignikowski's incredibly wonderful Blue Links spreadsheet for hockey. All that, is this huge structure and routine that I do for hockey, and I have one for everything I do. And I don't have to think about anything. I just do it. I logged off of work, turned around and grabbed two teams, opened up the spreadsheet first, grabbed two teams, boom, start playing. Immediately I'm out of work mode and immediately into the sports world. And that's a good thing, I think. It's a great thing to be able to just immediately flip that switch away from work. And I'm not saying I had a stressful day today. I didn't. I'm just sick. So it's kind of like, do I have the energy to keep, normally I play like 10, 15 games right after work. I know it's crazy, but that's what I do. But, depending on my time and things that are going on, but I can jump right out of work and jump in really into a lot of games. I'm sick now, but I'm not doing that. But anyway, now think about that if you had a bad day, or think about that if I work from home. So think about that if you're, driving home and you're thinking about, oh man, I can't wait to get home and play some baseball or play some basketball, or whatever it is you have on your tabletop, get away from that, or or the kids are crazy. Luckily I don't have to worry about that anymore as much. I have grandkids, but no kids at home. So, but I can imagine that too. You just want to get away from the life at home and get away. And I think this provides us that mental break away from everything. Go into your office, go into your basement, whatever it is you go to play, and get you away. So I think a lot of people do that, and that's a great thing. Um, I think it also starts to do some creative juices in your head. Um, I've had some discussions actually with I probably had another show, but I have had some discussions with some doctors about how gaming, I believe, it's just me, and actually this doctor agreed with me, helps us in our community keep our brain active because our creative juices are constantly flowing in what we're doing and what we're, you know, you're doing math. If you're throwing dice, you're like doing math all day long. You're doing lookups on charts, or all that, or as many of you do, as you're playing these games, you probably got like this mental picture. Like again, let's go back to what I was just doing. Boston and St. Louis are on the ice here, and I immediately went to St. Louis in my head, and I've never been there, but I'm on a hockey rink and these guys are playing, and sometimes I imagine that as a TV kind of thing. Sometimes I imagine that as I'm actually there watching this game. More TV than anything else, I guess, as I think about that. But you're creatively building this scenario in your head, and I'm watching David Pasternak, and I'm like, oh, I can see him scoring these goals. And if I keep talking about Boston, you guys are going to think I like Boston, because I don't. It just happened to be always tabletop. So anyway, point being is that that was a creative 15 minutes right after work. Jump right into another world, and my brain is moving and thinking more than what just work had for me. It's a whole creative world. And then of course there's just that nostalgia of what we do. I don't know how much nostalgia there is to doing a 24-25 NHL replay. It was last year, and I have my whole other reasons for why I'm doing that. I think I talked about it in the previous show. I'm trying to learn the players, learn hockey, blah blah blah. But when we jump into 1977 games, which is on Saturday, Tom Abbott, one of the guests on the show, was talking about how nostalgia was so important to him that he jumps back into 1977 when he plays. I think that's another big thing, is that that allows people to go there in their brains, and you're really not as much creating something as you are kind of going back and pulling something out of your brain. How you felt in 1977. Maybe you were in the basement playing Stratomatic with a friend, or maybe you were, playing APA with a friend or something, and those kind of things come up. And I think pushing your memories to the forefront from way back then, also a great thing for your brain. And so, yet again, another thing in here as Mr. Turnbull stops by. How you doing, John? Fantastic games by Mr. Turnbull. Love using his stuff. And if you're looking for a 15-minute getaway, he's got some great stuff that can provide that. And great. Always, I got all this stuff. So anyway, moving on. Other things. It kind of. He just kind of. He's busy as always. Yes, I'm sure you are. And he's got a new hockey season out tomorrow. Any want to give any hints as to what season that is? That sounds exciting. I guess I know what I'm doing tomorrow on Friday. Yeah, it gives you it kind of quiets the noise around you, if you will. If you have noise, I'm not saying everybody runs to a mental break. I know I don't always run to a mental break to use this, but I do feel like I have it gives me that. And then kind of last on this and I think everybody's maybe a little bit different on this. As John says, it'll be a 21st century. Okay, all right, that's only a few seasons to choose from, right? Looking forward to it, my friend. Looking forward to it. Um, but a sense of accomplishment. I know that some people put their sense of accomplishment in gaming too far up, too high up, like completing a season. That's too high because you're probably gonna disappoint yourself because anybody can tell you completing a season, depending on what completing a season means to you, that's hard to get to. That's hard to get to. That's you're at the end of the project plan and creating no milestones for yourself. As PJ stops by, hey buddy, how you doing? Um, and so you need to create milestones. And I really believe, depending on the time you have available, and I think Tom Abbott talked about it last week. Tom has very limited time to play, so Tom can't set milestones of 300 games, 500 games if he's doing a whole season, or if he's only doing one team. You really can't set his milestones of accomplishment at maybe the All-Star break or something like that. It's going to take him a long time to feel fulfilled on that. For a guy like that, he should feel accomplishment after each game. I got that game in. I got a game done. And it was a great game, or it wasn't a great game, but he got a game in. And he got a game in tonight. And I think you got to set very small accomplishment goals for yourself. And again, it just depends on how many you do. Like, so for me, for example, we were playing the whole NHL for 24-25 and playing as many games as I do a day. I set that at getting 10 games done a night. If I can get 10 games done a night, which is what I shoot for, I don't always hit it, I feel a real sense of accomplishment. And that, again, we all need a pat on the back, even if it's from ourselves. You're not, and I talked about this in another show, if you're expecting to get that from the community, you won't. You can put up that you played 10 games, you might get a like on Facebook. They're not here to, nobody's here to pat you on the back. You got to pat yourself on the back. But getting a sense of accomplishment, setting milestones, I think all these things are positives and can provide an uplift at the end of your day. If you had a bad day, if you got the flu, if you're just looking for something, I think that's really important. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there, see if that resonates with people, see if they feel that way, see if they've even looked at it that way. So that's kind of my on that. So with every good side, let's jump to the other side of that. I think not the hardest thing to do, but when gaming starts to cause you stress or you starting to feel obligated, that's when people walk away from projects, and sometimes they walk away from gaming for a while. And I think that's because you haven't kind of really prepped yourself right, and kind of really, when you start a project, it's so important to set what you're after. And it's not that it can't be, but it shouldn't really be the end result, because generally you're going to be on a road. And so you got to have a road of accomplishments that I was talking about. And so if you just put that goal just at the end of the project, you're going to be really disappointed along the way, because I've heard so many times, and God, I hope you're not, there probably are people that are Minnesota and Detroit fans, and Tom's a Detroit fan, so I can do this now. If you're not a Minnesota and Detroit fan and you're replaying 1977 as Tom is, and you're playing everybody, you're not looking forward to that game. And it's not fun anymore, because you're not looking forward to even playing the game. You're trying to get it out of the way. Maybe you sim it and use some sim software or whatever to do it, so you don't have to deal with it. But again, there's no enjoyment. You're just kind of doing something to pass something by. So again, if you've got to set things, one of the things I do to try and avoid that when I do all these different long season ones is I'm trying to pull a story from each of my teams. Maybe it's a player, maybe it's the team as a whole. And I'm trying to follow that story within that team. And so what I got in front of me here is like oh, it did show up there a little bit. What I got here is Eastern Conference, Western Conference NHL as an example. And I have a story for each one of those teams that I did some research ahead of time. And I looked at those and I said, okay, here's my story for this team. And again, it's either like a team story, maybe they were really bad and I'm going to try and get them more wins than they got that season. Maybe it's a player. Again, I have an overall arching goal for playing 24-25 NHL, and that is I'm trying to learn the players. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm a baseball, football, basketball guy. I can give you every, offensive lineman from the 1972 Redskins, but I can't tell you a squat about hockey. I've just picked it up in the last probably 3 years. So my goal, overall arching goal, is to pop out those teams and look at their names and start to understand who these guys are. And of course, I watch the games on television and, I watch ESPN hockey and blah, blah, blah. And everybody in the world knows, who McDavid is and Draisaitl and David Pastrnak and all those guys that are on all the time on ESPN. But I want to learn more about all the guys on the team and not just those. So that's my overall thing that I want to do for the entire league. But then I have the little stories for each team as I go along. So that I'm heading towards. So when I am playing St. Louis against Boston, which normally I might not give two squats about, I was excited to play that game because both Boston and St. Louis in my league, both teams are struggling. And so like a story is being created for both of those. And I know both of them didn't do great last year, but they're really doing crappy in my replay. And so it's kind of like to see who's going to jump up. And by the way, St. Louis won the game on home ice in St. Louis. So Pastrnak scored 2 goals for Boston. But anyway, the whole point being is that I'm looking at that and I'm trying to not be stressed when I play games. When you feel stressed, you should walk away. Let's jump into the chat a little bit here. PJet saying playing red, white, and blue. Oh my God, it's right there. I have only played that, I think, twice, PJet. And I really, really enjoyed that game. God, everyone told me I was going to. I'm not a racing fan. Again, this is a play game for those who don't know. And I started it in my 1980 universe when I was trying to do everything, and I'm still kind of go back to that. So I'm trying to do the race schedule for 1980, and I think I've done 2 races. Man, is that game fun! And he's doing it right now to unwind for some stress. So we're finding someone to repair my car, which would have gotten junked if I couldn't. Expensive too. Hey, buddy, I just replaced 4 tires on my car because one of the tires was bad, and of course at that point all 4 are already looking bad. So I feel you, definitely feel you there, and that was probably even more stress on there. So I definitely feel that, my friend. Good luck with that. And JC stops by. If those don't know JC, he runs the 1984 co-op baseball. It's a great league. I did a few games in that and just became too busy and couldn't really do what I wanted to in that league. So I kind of bowed out for a little bit. But yeah, he runs that 1984. You should check it out. JC also says 100 races, never had a dull one. With that game, 100% believe that. That is a game that I wish I could pull out more onto my desktop than I do. And I actually have somewhere in here, I have like the 25 season or whatever, 24-25 season, still in the plastic. I gotta pull that out and play with that. And that game is a lot of fun. You don't have to love racing to love that game. Everybody told me that. I was like, yeah, sure. Opened it up, 100% right. Do not have to love racing to love that game. And also, John says, have you seen the racing game variant with Roomba cats? This one, I'm quite sure I don't know. But I'm sure John can explain that a little more because I have no idea what you're talking about with Roomba cat. Anyway, let's move on to this discussion. Another thing uh, is, and wonder if you guys feel this, and I kind of felt this a little bit yesterday and the day before. I literally worked and then walked away. I mean, I think I might have played a few games, but for me, that's walking away. And I felt guilty of not doing my normal routine, 10, 15 games, getting really deep into stuff, doing some social media work, all that kind of stuff. I felt guilty, and and that's not good either. You should, and that's self. I'm doing that to myself, feeling guilty that I'm just not putting, I sometimes feel like that, it's like almost like a second job, if you will. And it's just feeling guilty about not, not being productive. Like there's the word I'm really looking for. And not feeling productive. I didn't move the needle of whatever project I decided to work on that day. And I have several of them, sitting there laying on the couch watching TV was not moving my, you know, it was not moving the needle anywhere. And so I thought about it the whole time I was there. And that's probably really bad, I guess. But that's what I did. Um, and so it kind of turned, it's kind of my next point is, turning the hobby into an obligation. And when you get there, I think it's a good time to take a step back and go, what am I doing here? This is getting too deep, too much. I just want to play a game. I just want to have fun. I'm trying to do too much. I need to settle down, just do what makes me happy. So if you get there, just do that. Just turn off the noise around you, turn off the social media, and just play a game. Don't worry about who sees the stats outside of you. But don't even keep stats. Just play the damn game and have fun. Um, but yeah, so if I think if it starts to feel like a job, kind of wrapping this piece of it up, if it starts to feel like a job or a commitment, walk away for a little bit. Just and some people are sometimes I think my personality is there as well. It used to be, especially when I was younger. You have to walk away for good. You have to walk away for 2 months. Sometimes walking away for a half hour is good. Sometimes walking away for a day, 2 days, a week, a month. You'll know when it's right to come back. But come back. You're here for a reason, and you love this stuff. But give yourself a mental break. And Mr. Canestrani just stopped by. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Thanks for being on the show Saturday. I think you talked a little bit about mental stuff on Saturday, a little bit. And JC says, often conflicted about the time I spend gaming. I feel like I should be doing something productive. It's a shame that I can't enjoy things I enjoy because of a false standard I've set. And all those key words in there, JC, 100% agree with what you said here. I get that is because you've set them and you feel that way. And yeah, I see that point. And I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, JC, what you're saying is you actually feel guilty for spending too much time. You should be doing something else productive. I think that's what you're saying. Like maybe, you should be doing something from the honeydew list or whatever, and not spending time in your office playing a game. And I know a lot of people feel that way. I've never gone that way, really. Maybe that's because I have such good backing from my wife about, she knows the gaming, how much I love it, how much I'm into it. It's my hobby. She'd much rather see me do this than being out doing drugs. So, and not that I'm comparing this to that, but you know what I'm saying. This is my hobby, and she sees that it keeps me mentally focused for other things, and so she likes it. She also likes that I know when to take my breaks. So she really likes that. Yeah. So also, yeah, good time to take away and recharge batteries always, John. I think recharging, getting people to come back. I want to jump off this or jump onto this little thing that you're saying. Do you know one of the reasons, and I wonder if anybody else feels this, that I don't always jump off and take a break and recharge the batteries is I feel like I'll miss something. I'll release of something. Play just came out with something. Or John Turnbull comes out with something. I missed Friday's release. Sometimes there's that. that keeps me coming back at least every day to kind of peek or around the curtain and make sure I'm not missing anything that day. So sometimes I think that happens, and probably why I don't ever have any long-term walk away from the hobby. It's always short-term because I always feel like I'm going to miss something. So Mike also says he thinks the mental strain is a result of the project not going the way he planned. Well, that's a whole different strain. I'm not sure if that's mental. I think that's more like, I guess it's mental, but man, project's not going the way you planned. Mike, if you can expand upon that, is that because you're playing one team and that team in that replay is not going where you want? And I think that's the positive of doing full season replays like I do of every team, because every team, if my team's doing bad, I guess that would still make me pissed off, or mentally issue. But I generally avoid those. Or maybe it's just because I'm from Cleveland and our expectations are always at the bottom. So if the Cavs the Cavs have been good lately, but if the Indians suck in the 70s or the Browns suck in the 90s or 2000s and all that, then it's not a big deal to me because that's exactly what they are. They do suck. And if they do well, we get a big, yippee. But, if you're from Boston or somewhere where they win all the time and you've been very blessed or spoiled, depending on your outlook, that, if your team is, the Bulls and they're 70, you're looking for a 72-10 season and they're 60-22, you might be a little upset. I personally don't know what that feels like because I've never had a 72-10 team. So that's an interesting comment, though. And JC talks about guilt for spending any time gaming. Okay. Usually when something in my life is off and I feel like I should have done something more to change my situation. That's kind of deep, man, but I actually understand the entire post that you made there. I don't know that I feel that. And I think everybody sits in a chair a little different, in what they've got going on in their life and what their responsibilities are in their family and in their home. And that goes back to, I'm going to use Tom Abbott again, of, he's got a lot of responsibilities as a father, as a husband, and his job and blah, blah, blah. And getting good gaming time for him is just not there. And it's hard to get to. And he really enjoys it when he does. But I bet he might feel some of that, JC, that he feels like if he steals some time to play, that maybe he should be doing something else. I do feel it a little bit when my grandson's here. If he's like, playing PlayStation 5 or he's got some gaming he's playing, I may come in and steal a game or two. And sometimes, even though I know he's having fun and doing what he wants to do, I still feel a little guilty I'm not spending the time with him, at least watching him play the game. And so I still feel that. I know that's not on the level you're talking about here. I don't believe that you're talking about here, but that's kind of where my guilt comes from sometimes. But I'm also have been very good about he's here, I'm not in my office gaming. I try to spend as much time as I can with him when he's here. And actually, he's starting to ask a lot of questions about gaming. So that's even more fun because now I can start teaching. But Mike says, yeah, it happened with the 67 Red Sox replay when I fell behind the Tigers by 12 games early in the season due to an 11-game losing streak. That can be frustrating. That can be very frustrating. You would not, we didn't get to talk about this on Saturday, Mike, but my replay of the 1986 season, you would not have liked. I did every team, every game, and the Red Sox were looking up pretty much until August at the rest of the teams in the division. They had no bullpen. If Clemens and Boyd didn't make it through the first, or didn't make it, couldn't even, they had to do complete games to win games. And I think Roger had like 18 complete games or something for me. If they didn't complete the game and that bullpen came in, it was over and they lost. I should go back and look at how many blown games, blown saves, blown games, because you don't get a blown save if the game was 3-3 when you came in. You blew the game, though, in my opinion. You lost 4-3. It's your fault. now I'm going to do my Nashville thing. It's all your fault. Getting back into my hockey vibe there. But anyway, the point being is I don't think you would have liked that. That's probably one that would have really pissed you off if you would have you're playing all these games, 2,000 games, and your Red Sox, and talking to Mike here, are at the bottom of the basement. They won the division that year. They did make it up to like third place, but they certainly did not make it to the top that year in my replay. So I could definitely see where that could cause some issues. And Mike also says he stuck with the replay, and the Red Sox ended the season on a 13-game win streak. There you go. A roller coaster, right? Isn't that kind of real life for the Red Sox, though? Really, for any fan. I know everybody says only the Red Sox, only in Boston, only in Miami, only in Cleveland, only in Milwaukee. The reality is it happens everywhere. Our favorite teams screw up constantly. They're bitching and moaning here in Colorado right now because they got off to that amazing 21-2 start for the Avalanche, and then they lost a couple games, and you'd think that somebody decided there was no longer Christmas. They are really upset, really pissed off. The team's in the dumps. We're not going to make it. We're going to get kicked out in the first round. It's unbelievable. But you know what? Their fan base is no different than any other, and anybody's fan base who thinks they're different, you're not. Trust me, I've been everywhere in the U.S. I've been around every fan base. I used to travel a lot for my job. There's no fan base that's unique. Zero, zilch. Some get publicity as being worse than others. Hello, Philadelphia, throwing snowballs at Santa. But guess what? Those snowballs go off in every single game where there's enough snow to create a snowball. So Philly just got famous for it. Anyway, I well off onto a different one there. But yeah, I don't think you would have liked that replay, Mike, much. JC says it's not too often, but it usually signals a break is needed. I can't decide if guilt or Irish guilt. Flip a coin. Hey, man, you know what? We'll get into and I don't have it. I was going to say, man, you need the decider dice from play. Then you know which one it is. You could go with the decider dice on that one, buddy. It says project issues used to bother me, usually because a mistake was made. Now I just roll forward. So like when you say project issues, do you mean like maybe you were playing a game and you found out you were playing it wrong? And so now you feel like your statistics are wrong? Or do you mean something completely different when you say project issues? I wonder what you mean by that. So let me know. But jumping back into the mental health thing, jumping out of the chat for a second, burnout and giving yourself permission to pause. And I think this was really important for me for having this flu, which is still kicking my ass. I had to kind of give myself permission to take a couple of days off, to get my health, physical health, set up and not worry about gaming and not be feeling guilty about not gaming. And just, hey man, just go chill on the couch. You know what? You survived years and years and years without playing games, and of course I came back to it all. But I did survive. So I kind of had to give myself some permission. And I knew I was self-aware enough to know that I did not. I'm probably operating at about 75% energy right now. And so I being self-aware of what you got, and maybe JC's talking a little bit about this too in his posts, but being self-aware is what stopped me from doing Tuesday show. And I was going to do Wednesday, and I was like, nah, I'm probably at about 50% mental. And then today I thought about it for a little bit. I'm like, maybe I'll just do it on Friday, but I want back-to-back shows. So I'm definitely doing one on Saturday. Got some great guests Saturday, by the way. Ian is good. Brooke is going to be on here from, I hope I got the right dates. Ian's going to be on here from, if you have not touched his game On Deck Baseball, it's a real treat to see how that's set up. And then also Marco. A lot of you know Marco. Marco's going to be on Saturday. So hopefully they're both still going to be on. I haven't double checked with them, but they were both supposed to are scheduled to be on Saturday's show. So it should be a real nice Saturday show. And again, that I was almost even thinking maybe I'll cancel this week, as far as this, kind of my middle. I like to do a little middle episode that's just me. But because I was like, I really want to put a good faith effort into Saturday show, but I felt good enough to come on and at least talk. So that's what I'm doing. But I gave myself a couple days to get to not feel like I'm falling behind or anything else that I kind of said. You got to be very, um, uh, you know, self-aware of how you're feeling. And I want to add to this because this has been something I've seen in the community, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm going to throw this out. I think there's a lot of mental health, and I'm not saying people are crazy here when I use the word mental health. Because I think all of us have mental health challenges every day, and each one of us is unique. What we're dealing with in our day is different. For every single one of you, is different. And I think that sometimes people push themselves they've had a really bad day, or they got something really bad going on, family member passed away, just some great, really bad stuff could be going on. And sometimes I think people try to escape to the hobby to fix that bad day. And I would say escape to the tabletop, but don't escape to social media. Stay away. Because people who have, in my opinion, I'm not naming any names on this show, people who I believe I have found to be very cordial, very easy to talk to, very nice, sometimes flip on social media. Um, and that you can, again, reading people's, you know, posts, you could read into them, but I can kind of tell in some spaces where you can just tell that person's very agitated, has very short fuse, been dealing with a bunch of crap, and now has brought it to social media. And I think that that's a bad thing. If you're flipping on Facebook or Discord or whatever, and it's your getaway from a bad day, I think you've made a bad mistake, a really bad mistake. You want to flip to playing games, or it's just you in the game, I think that's a great idea. I think flipping on social media when you're not there, you're not in a great mood, you've had crappy shit going on, that's a really bad mistake. And I will definitely stick with the idea that I've seen it happen a lot lately, and it's a shame. And hopefully it hasn't been me, but I try not to. It's one thing I don't do is flip on social media when I've just had a bad day. So let's jump back into the chat a little bit. JC's talking about rules, maybe. Oh, okay. Back when we were talking about what was going on with your replay, that you felt there were some project issues. Maybe a mistaken setup, realizing I missed a batter or gave a team 4 outs. Now I just adjust and keep going. Yeah. Is that maturity? I don't know if it's maturity. Gaming maturity is, I guess, what that means. Is, I look at that kind of stuff and go, is going back going to make that big a difference in everything? So you have to take each individual situation under consideration here. But if the game's 10-4, I'm using baseball here. Game's 10-4, and you gave a team 4 outs, as you said. Unless they came back and won the game, does it really matter? Yeah, it's going to screw up your stats a little, maybe a little. Is there anyone going to notice? Are you even going to notice? But you were probably like me and extremely anal and wanted those things to work, and kind of would really get on yourself. Well, how did you make a mistake like that? I used to be like that, but yeah, I agree with you. Maybe a reason that doesn't happen to me anymore is I use so much electronic stuff to where I may think there's only 2 outs, but Digital Diamond just told me that was the 3rd out. So that exact scenario doesn't happen to me because Digital Diamond won't let it happen to me. I could tell you that I've had a batter though in my hands from the other team and going, wait a minute, why is it saying, Jim Rice is up? I got Angels in my hand here. So I would have probably gave a 4th out had Digital Diamond not woke me up and said, that was 3rd out, dude. So yeah, I see that though. I definitely feel that. Yeah, obviously a baseball guy. Yep. Yeah. John stops by. Yeah, Mr. Eckle, if you have not met him, he is a very nice man, very tall, big dude. I'm calling him my security for the show. John's awesome. If you haven't talked to him, you should go to a conference. I met him in Colorado, I believe. Right, John? And great guy. JC adds in, agrees social media is a great for expression for the community, but if you need to go disconnect, I go right to the game. Or for an audio, that's great. Go to JC audiobook or YouTube, or hey, go, what's really works for me? Go listen to Ron Juckett. Oh my God, that dude. And when he just listened to him play a game, I literally fell asleep last night to Ron Juckett. I was listening to his podcast, not his podcast. It was, I want to give the right credit here. Ron was on a show with someone, a guy I'd never heard of. They were talking about they're going to try and do a documentary. So I was listening to that podcast last night, but Ron's voice, I mean, he could put you to sleep, dude. He's got, and I used to do that. I used to have what was it called? It probably still is, the MLB ticket. And I used to flip on the Dodgers just so I could listen to the Dodgers, and listen to that announcer. And Ron's got his voice as they talk about in that podcast. But yeah, that will calm you down. That will relax you. Maybe energize you. But yeah, also dropping by is Cards and Dice with Don. How you doing? Cards and Dice, loving it. Thanks for stopping by. And Mark Unger, thank you. That was it. James Cast Podcast. James is another great guy. Thank you, John Turnbull, for that. If you have not listened to that podcast, the James podcast, first of all, James does an amazing job on podcasts. And James, by the way, if you're listening to this, I get how you do your how you split things up and everything in your shows, because I'm an IT guy too. So I know you're using some Sprint philosophy there. Waiting for your retro show though. But anyway, James had Mark Unger. That was the guy who's got some kind of acting that he talks about. And he's going to try and do a documentary that's going to basically feature Ron in it. And if anybody on this doesn't know who Ron Juckett is, immediately shut this down and go Ron, or go to YouTube and find Ron Juckett's channel and watch him. He is, as I think Mark Unger said and James agreed to, the most unbelievable person you will ever meet. And if you don't meet him personally, just you will ever meet online. Just watching him go through a podcast, watching him go through his shows, watching him call a game. It's unbelievable what this guy can do. And he does not care about his physical barriers one bit. And he embraces them. It is what it is, I believe he said on the show. And he just moves forward. What else, as I think he said, what else can he do but move forward? But for those of us who do not have those physical, we have a show here about mental, but for those of us who do not have those physical limitations that Ron has, you cannot be anything but amazed at Ron Juckett. You cannot. I mean, if you need a minute to refocus yourself and refocus how lucky you are and refocus how this gaming is important to people, go turn on Ron Juckett and you'll refocus yourself real quick and think, wow, we are really lucky in this to be able to do this stuff. And seeing Ron do stuff will definitely re-energize you. Just amazing person overall. But thanks, John, for correcting me on not correcting me, but giving me the name of it. Okay. So, all right. Now John's going to get in trouble here a little bit. He just rolled out, I am in a co-op league with Mr. Heckle and with Keith and with some others that may be in here. Michael actually is in that as well. So John is Milwaukee. They're a really bad team. Not good at all. Just kidding, John. He just rolled our XHL matchup this month, and the Marauders barely slipped by the Cleveland Blizzard team. My team, yep, thought it was going to get slaughtered, but I squeaked it out. Yeah, you did. It's a fun league, and if you haven't done co-ops, again, I want to do a whole show on co-ops, and I think it combines two of the major things that I kind of started the show off with it as well. It's a co-op with fictional, even though some of the NHL players, excuse me, are in there. We drafted. We each have two on our teams, but it's a ton of fun. What a great league! We have a lot of fun in it. But yeah, John's in that league with us. If you do not have the XHL set and you're interested in hockey slash fictional league, go check out XHL, because I'll just tell you that it's different because it has 2 point goals, which make it really exciting. Although, John, we don't get like any in our league. Nobody, I'm the only one who does open 2 point shooting. Everybody else says only if I'm down by 2 in the third period. I'm like, come on, man, that's not fun. Open it up. Let's shoot right when the team gets a penalty. But anyway, it's fun. It's a great way to talk with other people. You play your home games, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. We're all having a blast doing it, and I can't wait for the next one. Which, besides this one, now I'm in that Blam League that for the New York and the initial beginning of this show. I got my cards in today. It's not showing up real good, but anyway. If they're fictional, Basketball League of America from Play. I'm in a co-op league for that. And one of the things I was mentioning early in the show was that you have to learn the game when it's fictional. And what I mean by that is when I look at these cards, I can't just say, if we're doing baseball and we're looking at the 1970 A's, Burt Campaneris is leading off for you, and Reggie Jackson bat fourth, Joe Rudy, Sal Bando, who you're starting everywhere, right? Gene Tennis behind the plate, blah blah blah. When you get into a fictional league, there's no stats on these cards either. So you have to know the game engine and how the game works, and it forces you to learn the game better, I think, and learn the card layout better. And so, I don't know, how good. I'm looking at Blaze Daniels here. I know how good he potentially can be because I do understand the game, Prime Hoops. But if I didn't, I would have no idea what any of that on there was. So I think that's another thing that fictional isn't given credit for, is it really forces you to understand the cards. And you can't just, grab the whole set and you already know who your starting lineup is. Or you're doing as played lineups like I do majority of the time, and you're just pulling them from Baseball Reference. Here, you get into these fictional leagues, and you have to figure out of those 12 players I have for each of those teams, who's my starting five. That's not as easy as it is when it's non-fictional. So just a little note that I kind of hit in my head today. And then John said, yep, we met in Colorado Play. I thought so. I thought that's where it was. JC says, Ron is a nice listen. When I used to stream video games late at night, my community nicknamed me Ambien because they all listen to me while they fell asleep. That's funny. That's funny, JC. Yeah. There's some people who got that voice, right? So PJ is saying with fictional, you can't complain about a player not getting an accurate or deserved rating. That's true. Another thing with that, PJ, that I talked about in another show before is it's, when you're playing, like I'm playing the 24-25 NHL, right? If I post a result, I can be, I guess, worried, or people can criticize and say, well, he would have never scored a hat trick. He would have never got a hat trick in a game, or he would have never been on the penalty killing team, or he would have never been, scoring a goal here that, or he would have never gave up X amount of goals in a game. But when you have fictional players, nobody knows. Nobody knows whether he could do that. Nobody knows if he's going to hit 30 home runs, 50 home runs, 70 home runs, 2 home runs. You don't know. Now, unless you're recreating a fictional league's season with the same exact cards that somebody else has already posted all the results. Now you're up against them, but that's it. So yeah, I think a lot of people, and I talked about this, and I want to have an entire show around this, but I think a lot of people are moving to fictional because of that exact reason.
stop me here where I'm wrong, anybody. But are you seeing that you and or have heard others are like, well, I do fictional because then I don't have to feel like, I think I mentioned this in Saturday's show. Rod Carew has 2 home runs already in 1981. He and like 30 at bats. He had 400 and something that year. Strike year, as everyone knows, but he had he has 2 home runs with over 400 at bats left or something close, and he hit 2 that year. And I'm looking at that already, going, oh my God, this guy's got this, and this is what goes through my head. This guy's got to go 400 at bats without another home run, or maybe a few, but he can't hit 20. Because then my replay is not, it's no good. It's lost its integrity because Rod Carew had 20 home runs. But if this is fictional, and I'm just going to grab a name here, Tank Rare scores 35 goals in a season, and he's a basketball player here anyway, it does not matter. It's fictional. But okay, so let's use basketball. If Tank Rare actually is his name, scores 30 points a game, anybody on this chat going to argue? You don't even know whether he's supposed to score 3 or 30. But we can quickly go, Rod Career's not a home run hitter, and you can quickly look up 1981 and quickly see he had 2 home runs and go, what the hell is going on with your replay? So I think some people are moving that way. I'm not saying everybody is. I just think I'm seeing that. I'm talking to people who say they're doing that. And I think it's pretty interesting. What reason to go into fictional? As PJ says, he hasn't had the urge to try. I didn't until XHL came out. That's the first. I swore off fictional. I was like, what are you doing that for? Aren't we all here for the same reason? To replay our youth, to play the 70 baseball teams and all that kind of stuff? Isn't that why we're all here? And then find out, no, people actually like the games. And they're more excited about the games than they are the replay. And so instead of feeling like they have to do and have to create these certain stats or get within, and I always say replay, not replica, but get within a window of a stat. It's just not even something you're worried about. It doesn't matter if I'm going to go to this sheet again here. Blaze Daniels scores 30 points in my game tomorrow. It does not matter. So I think it takes some of the stress if you put that on yourself, to not worry about the integrity of your results. And I'm not using the word integrity meaning you're cheating. I'm meaning that, hey, your results just did. People are kind of blow you off, kind of like, he must have done something wrong to get Rod Carew 20 home runs. And I'm not saying Rod's going to hit 20 home runs on my 1981 league. Maybe he will go 200 at bats over the summer in that league and not hit any, or hit 1 or 2. And I may be sitting here having the episode 40 talking about how, hey, remember when I was talking about worried about Rod Carew with just, already had 2 home runs? Well, he only has 3 now. So who knows? Maybe I'm going to be talking to he has 25 and I'm going, I don't know what I'm going to do with this replay. Anyway, next up, I think I skipped one here. It's bouncing on me already. There we go. Sorry, let me jump on this one here. Micah, how are you doing, my friend, fellow Clevelander? If you do not know Micah is newer to the game. At some point, Micah, we got to stop calling you new. He is a fellow Clevelander, met him at play as well. And Micah's got a major energy for and younger and just a great addition to our group, our hobby. If you haven't seen some of his posts, he's got some great stuff. And I love that he replaced the Cleveland stuff because I don't have the guts, buddy. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, he replaced the good Cleveland teams, I noticed. This is probably the only way to do it, Micah. You pick from the 5 seasons over the last 50 years that were any good from 3 different sports. Whole nother show. But anyway, yeah, you like the sense of surprise. I'm assuming you're talking about the fictional. Maybe you're not, but I believe you're talking about the fictional here. And that's another thing is a sense of surprise. How about the sense of creating your own story? How about you go through a season, whether you make that, and here's another thing, you're not locked to these fictional teams. You're not locked to, I got to play 162 games in baseball, or I'm not locked to 81 if I want to do a half season or whatever. You pick a quarter season. You can do whatever you want, and you're not chasing 20 game winner or any of that kind of stuff with these. Or you might still, if it's baseball, like Baseball League of America, Mike can jump on that. But looking at this, making a story out of somebody, here's one for the XHL. Anybody who's got it, Cleveland, Steve Semmes, Semmes, and I can't say if I'm saying that right because it's a fictional name. It doesn't matter how I say it. But anyway, Steve Semmes is already like a god to me. I hope sometimes not to go to a game and, hey, but there's Steve Semmes on the Cleveland Blizzard. What are you talking about? The guy is almost real to me, and he has won me a lot of games. John Heckel can tell you about Steve Semmes. He's really good on my team, and he becomes kind of a folklore. And I'm in this Bland League, Baseball League, Basketball League of America. And those guys, I didn't play last year. I wasn't in that, but I got in this year. And they're talking about a guy that's actually on my team because they move the players around. Keith moves these players around, which I think is cool. Moves some, not all. But there's a player, I'm not going to go looking for him. There's a player that they're already talking about who's a legend from last year. And so, that you're using that creative piece that I talked about earlier from the mental piece of the show. Here's Micah, who's looking forward to what's going to be the surprise on his desktop today. Who's going to come out and do something? So, John jumps in and talks about the freedom of the fictional and creating his own universe with its own unique story. He loves watching all the stories unfold. I will play devil's advocate to you, John, and say you can do that with non-fictional. I mean, I'm sitting here, got my own unique story about Rod Carew in 1981. I don't know where that's going, but I get what you're saying, my friend. I think, for the most part, what I'm seeing in 1981 is what happened in 1981. What I'm doing with my 24-25 NHL is what happened last year in the NHL. I have no idea what I'm going to get out of this because I have no expectations out of that basketball set. None. I have no idea what's going to happen here. And the team I got New Jersey, by the way. It's who knows where that's going. I have no idea if this team's any good. I guess they made the playoffs last year. Some of the players are the same as from the year before. Some of these are new. Hugh Dort, that was the guy who's like a fictional stud in this league. But anyway, I'm excited to play it just because it puts something different on the tabletop. What I'm worried about most, just I'm going to go off on a tangent here a little bit, is I played a couple games last week for prime time. Those of you who don't have it, you won't understand this, but those of you who do, it takes a long time to play that game. I love it. It's fun. And I love the big, fast action cards. It's different. Of course, Keith always comes out with something different. It just takes a long time to play that game. And when you've gotten used to baseball, I play baseball games in 10 to 15 minutes, depending on if it goes to extra innings or 15 to 13. Going to take me a little longer in a game. But I can play baseball in 10 to 15 minutes. And when you start playing the Hockey Blast, if I'm playing Express, which I do most of my hockey is Express, I can play those in 10 to 15 minutes. To flip over to an hour and a half game, that's tough. And that's why, I love Mr. Turnbull's games, because I can play a basketball game in 5 minutes with his. Now, you get some stats, but you don't get it all. And it just depends on what you want out of the day. You may need a mental health break to shut everything off and play an hour and a half basketball game. I'm just being honest on my show. I'm really worried. Can I put in the effort of all the home games I need to play with this when it takes an hour and a half to play a game? I don't know. I can't wait to see if I can. I think it's a great challenge that I'm putting on myself, and I'm excited to see where that goes. And I think what you talk about here, John, is what's going to push me toward getting there. Micah jumps in and says, is the team getting hot after a slow start? Actually, a good team on track or a bad team getting lucky? Who knows? Yeah, there's there's so much. And again, I would say that you can do that with anything, even as played replays. Who's hot, who isn't. If you take a look at my hockey team, Utah, Philadelphia, and Vegas are the three real hot teams. And Philadelphia has no business being that hot. Utah, and Vegas kind of expected. But really, I'm talking like 13-2 so far, kind of thing. And then I got I think it's Edmonton, who's really bad. Calgary's really bad. And you wouldn't think Calgary would be. So you can end up getting that with as played replays as well. So just throwing that out there. And then PJ throws in, it happened in the 67, Bud Harrelson and History Maker Baseball. I'm assuming that's what you mean there. Had 2 home runs in the first. Oh, he's talking about my Rod Carew thing. And then none the rest of the season. Really? So you replayed the entire 69 season and he had 2 in the first week and then nothing? Oh, man, you're making me feel better, PJ. I don't, again, do I really have to be worried whether the guy hits 20 home runs? I do. I worry about it. I'm putting it on myself. But, and it's also a great story now. I cannot sit down. I actually want to jump into the Angels right now on my game and play. I am dying to get Rod Carew to the plate and just, don't hit a home run. I want to get a 10-game streak going if I'm not hitting a home run. And I'm going to feel some sort of weird accomplishment. I don't know. It's strange. It's a new story. It's a storyline. Rod Carew has 2 home runs in the first week. We'll see what happens. That's good to know, though, that Bud Harrelson did that in History Maker Baseball. Micah jumps back in with, he doesn't mind the occasional crazy result in a replay as long as it feels right on the whole or unexpected results feel explicable. So I think what you're meaning here is you're okay with a thing like Rod Carew hits 20 home runs, but as long as the rest of the replay is pretty, on par, the right, I don't want to say the right teams, but realistic teams make the playoffs. You're not having 4 70-win teams and playing in the playoffs in 1981. I think that's where you're going, Micah. I agree with you. 1-offs, 2-offs, 3-offs, they're just stories, but they're interesting stories to follow. Again, just making up my own thing there. Michael jumps in and says that what makes the leap. And Mike, we need you to talk a lot more. I need you to come on and do a whole show on the leap set. I am so interested in this because this is so different. I have it. It is setting. I did find it, Mike. I think I showed it to you. I do have it. It is right here. And as you can hear, still in the plastic. That's not a shot at play. That's me having too much on my plate. I'm looking at those cards. First of all, man, are they gorgeous. Look at these. I can get it to work. Look at how nice these cards are. If you do not have the leap set, I think Mike said they took them off the site. I got it during, this has been sitting here since Thanksgiving. How bad am I? But it is a absolutely awesome set. And that's Keith. Keith's got some awesome, even though they're some of the smallest cards, not some, they are the smallest cards in the business. These are just gorgeous, so much packed into one. And so this is what I'm going to call, Mike, stop me when I'm wrong, that this is your hybrid of moving between the fictional world and the reality world. Because as I understand it, inside this set are players from this is what, Arizona up here. I don't know if I could find any on here right off the top of my head. And Mike, he's been playing this like crazy. So he could probably tell you right away who the Arizona players are. Paul Skeens. Look at that. Paul Skeens is on Arizona. Right there. Look at that. Holy Toledo. Mike, stop me if I'm wrong. That's Paul Skeens, right? And so he's on Arizona. So, he takes the wonderful artistic approach of just kind of directing things in weird ways and puts him on there. So you're going to get some of the younger players that, what do they look like at 2040? And so what is Skeens got to be like a 38-year-old pitcher in this. And so now you got him playing with a bunch of fictional players, but you've got some players like Paul Skeens. And I just think that's amazing. Mike, I got to get this out. You got to keep pushing me, man. I gotta play this. I gotta see what Paul Skeens does for Arizona. You know what? Can you drop in chat how Paul Skeens is doing for Arizona for you? Because I'm interested. I'm just really interested in that. I just think that's yet. If you are not a play gamer, um, you need to become one because what Keith does for our hobby and his absolute brilliant mind in what he comes up with things like that. And at the same time, provides you with 1981 replay ability for History Maker Baseball, meaning, I'm trying to point out that it's all there. The guy is everything. He's got the ability for, and he puts in some of the most unique things that you can come up with. Umpires in baseball, no other game does it, and they are a part of the game. And these guys who have been talking about History Maker will know when I say you get a questionable or even a semi-questionable umpire behind home plate, and Nolan Ryan's pitching that day, you're going to have a fun day. Fun meaning you're either going to get a crap ton of walks or you're going to get a crap ton of walks turned into strikeouts. But it changes the game, just like in real life with Hernandez out there changing the game with bad calls. These umpires, they don't overly, in my opinion, in all the games I've played, I don't know how many I've played, 500. They don't overly affect the game, but they affect it from time to time. I can think of one or two games literally ended on an umpire's call, which happens in real life. It was a respected umpire called the player out at home. He was trying to tie the game up with 2 outs in the ninth, and a respectable umpire called him out. And if he wasn't respected, he called him safe. And he was respected. I think he was respected or semi, and you guys know that you flip that dice. Boom, ended up being respected. Game was over. I just thought that was the most incredible, realistic television ending to a game. And this is where you start to talk about, well, it's no fun doing Minnesota and Detroit, in a season. You play every team, and it's no fun for that. That was one of those games. It was two teams I was not that interested in playing. What an ending to the game it was, though. Ended up being one of my funner games of the season that I played in that season. So you never know what you're going to get out of it. I'm not saying that Strat or App or any of the other games don't have their fantastic qualities and that you shouldn't play them, because you shouldn't, and I do. I have a closet full of everything. I think I'm up to, I don't remember the last look was 60 different games, over almost 500 seasons now within those games. I have a whole rented out U-Haul facility of just carts of stuff. So I play everything. I find that positive in every game. And when I talk about Keith's games, I talk about his unique look at the gaming industry that no one else sees, no one else does, no one else takes the time, like the leap set, like the umpires. It makes it fantastic. So again, if you want something that's a little different and takes you not just rolling dice and doing a replay, which sometimes that's enough, definitely is for me, and you want a little bit more of a storyboard game, check out Keith's games. I think they take you there. They take you to kind of a unique, different place. C&D Don that's why I love these games, because the dice roll can change the past results. I'm going to quote Mr. Juckett again. The second the dice hit the table, it's your story. It's a unique story. And I could be playing the 85 Mets against the 85 Red Sox. And Don, you can be playing the 85 Red Sox and the 85 Mets. And the second each of our dice hits the table, it's a different story. We're each telling our own unique story. And that is exactly why we all love these games. And it's so much fun. And that's why we like to watch people play online. It's like, I didn't used to understand that. I don't want to watch somebody play a game online when I can play it myself. And sometimes I still feel that way. But then I started watching, honestly, I was watching Ron Juckett play a game. And I was like, man, I'm just watching his story develop as he's playing. And he's great at telling his story as he plays. And I started to get into that. And I was like, wow, watching people play games is not, especially like if I'm laying down in bed, getting ready for bed, I'm not at my table and I just want to watch a game. And then when I actually moved from Nashville to Colorado, I used to listen to all the podcasts or listen to the videos, but just listen to the audio piece of it and listen to people play games as I went across country. And I was like, wow, and of course it made me want to stop the car and pull over and play a game. But at the same point, it was nice to hear somebody else's story. So if you do YouTube videos and you do try to play your games, tell your story. Don't be worried about it. Don't be worried if Rucker has 10 home runs. Tell the story that's been presented to you the second those dice hit the ground, as Don says. The second they hit there, it's your unique story. It's your unique story to tell. So tell it. Let us all hear about it. Pull up a chair and let's talk about it. I want to have people on this show eventually to talk about what they played that week, a game they played that week, a season they had that week. What was their story? Did you play a game like I was talking about where a guy got thrown out at home plate and the umpire made the decision of the out at home plate? That is freaking incredible. I want to hear those stories. Everybody wants to hear that stuff. It reinvigorates and re-energizes us all. And so you have those stories, share those stories, not on social media, but on YouTube, on my show, other shows, because it really helps us all go, yeah, man, that's an awesome story. Let me pick that game up and maybe I can create my own story, as Don's talking about here. He also says, I think we forget to let our imagination run when we're playing. Mike, correct me if no, it was Tom that I was talking to. And I said, sometimes I get in a horrible run where I'm just playing the game. And I think this is what you mean. And I'm just rolling the dice, 2-4, look up the chart, whatever it is. And there's the result, flip the guy, and I couldn't even tell. And maybe it's a double. I can't even tell you who hit it. Because I'm just kind of going through the game and just trying to get through a game. And I'm missing the whole story. That could have been somebody's 20th double of the season. I mean, things like that, I'm missing the story. And that happens to me sometimes. I have to stop myself because I'm going too fast and say, wait a minute, there's a story being told in this game, and one of the things I like to do is to have a baseball reference, basketball reference, hockey reference, football reference, whatever I'm playing, that reference always up on my other screen. And I like to know what they did that day. So let's just take a baseball game. I may have, look up and see how, like Mike Norris, I'm playing 1981. Mike Norris went 9 innings, 11 strikeouts, 2 hits, and can he replicate that? And again, I'm not looking to replicate, I'm looking to replay, but that's his bar for the game. Can he do that again? Nope, got knocked out in the second inning. That's my story now, different story. But if I don't take that time, as Don's talking about, to make sure I've got a story going into each and every time I throw the dice, then you're just throwing the dice. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that either, because I do it. But you're missing out on some fun. And like you said, I think we forget to let the imagination jump in and have fun with this. And I think it's out of taking time. At least I'm going to say it for me. I am the most impatient person in the world. And taking the time to make sure I set up my story before I play the game, because I'm playing 2,000 games in a season sometimes, I forget to take the time to set the story. And I'm missing out when I do that. And so great point there, Don. I think that's what you mean. PJet jumping in saying, I usually have one outlier stat in every project. One player who hits significantly above or below his average and scores significantly fewer goals than in real life. Yeah. I in some ways, spoiled myself with my 86 replay. Now, I've already talked about how the Red Sox were in the basement, most of it, and then moved their way to the middle. And there were 2 surprise teams, Detroit and my Cleveland. But Cleveland lost to Detroit in a 1-game playoff for the division title, which was crazy. The whole time I'm going, man, everyone's going to think I'm cheating because it's Cleveland. They really did well in that. They had a nice bullpen that year, and actually hung in there, unlike the Red Sox, who had a horrible bullpen. I digressed again. But anyway, the point being is that overall, Detroit had a really good team that year, but Lance Parrish got hurt. I think maybe a month after the All-Star game, I think it was. And he did so well in my league that he led the league in home runs. even though he missed the last 2 months of the season. He hit, I think, 41 home runs, something crazy. And I kept thinking somebody's going to catch him. Somebody's going to catch him because he's out, because I'm doing as played lineups, and no one caught him. And the Tigers jumped out to such a huge advantage with him hitting that well. And of course, other guys on the team were doing incredible. Not just him. Teams can't do that with one player. But, you know, and the Indians were kind of hanging with them. And that's another reason the Red Sox and Yankees just couldn't catch the Tigers. They were so good. But when I got to the playoffs, without Parrish, in a 7-game series against California, who did win the West in real life, they couldn't compete. And the Angels beat them, and Doug DeCenze, who had a really good season, and then was the MVP for me in the ALCS. And then they went on to the World Series to play Houston, which of course made the playoffs. Mike Scott was amazing, and DeCenze was MVP again and had an amazing. So my 1986 story, as I always remember it, about 5 years ago now, at least, Doug DeCenze. What an incredible time he had. I didn't have really, that I can remember, one player going nuts, or not nuts, but going way over or way under. I remember more the Boston bullpen, extremely underachieving. And if you talk to Ron Juckett, they always do anyway. But they really underachieved. So I saw it, at least in my brain, how I remember my story from years ago on the 86 replay, is that Red Sox bullpen was the story of the underlier who just didn't do anything. And the over was the Indians, and probably the Tigers, especially Parrish, the way he went nuts with his home runs. But yeah, I see the whole point of what you're making there. And then Micah and John H. are in the leap. Oh, I did not know that. So you got a couple of really good guys in that. And be careful with John, though, and his Milwaukee teams. He surprises people once in a while and wins games. But yeah, so. Oh, you know what? Hey, Mike, is in this, before I'm going to rip this open tonight. I am. Is there a Cleveland team? Because do they have like every team? Is there Cleveland? Is this all 32 teams? Let me know. I'm going to find out tonight when I open it up anyway. I think you did say it was all 32 teams. But did they move any? Because that would have been kind of cool if they would have moved a team to Montreal, or you took Tampa Bay out and moved them. I think that would have been a cool thing for Keith to do. Probably didn't do that, but that would have been cool. And John Wise stops by. Hey, John, how you doing? Met him also at the in Denver. Really nice guy. Wonderful wife. Got to sit down and have lunch with them and stuff. Fantastic couple. And John says hi to John. There's a lot of Johns in here, you know. Hey, and then he goes back to John. Micah, yeah, I like primetime a lot, but having to count out the cards and split them into stacks 4 times a game is a real barrier to me getting it on the table. 100%, my friend. I agree with that. And you got to look at the era you're playing and know how many cards to use. Unless once you're in a replay, you know how many you're using. But if you are messing around and playing different games, you got to look at that too before you start. And like I think in this leap year, when we're using 50 back cards. So yeah, and then you got to have them spread out into 3 different piles, and the TV timeouts, which I think again, the mind of Keith is amazing. But he has the TV timeouts in there, and then who's going to get the ball, who's the playmaker. All that stuff is so cool in prime time. But you got to open up your day for an hour and a half. Actually, I want to ask this question to the chat. Because thanks, Micah, for kind of really sparking something in my head, because I thought about this the other day when I was playing Prime. How many people feel like if you stop, let's say you stop a game at the end of the first quarter, and I'm talking, more. I mean, I guess this can happen in baseball if you get pulled away, work pulls you away, like you're trying to play during work or something, or family pulls you away, something happens and you have to move away. Well, regardless, even if it's baseball, do you feel like you lose the story when you come back, and that it's hard to get it back without spending time looking over your sheet, especially a basketball or a football game, knowing where everything is, knowing what's happened in that game? Do you lose that? Is there some, because like when you play for me, when I play the game straight out, I got the story for the whole game. But I'll come back if I play like a quarter of prime time and then go eat dinner and something and come back. I'll forget that Larry Bird has 2 fouls, that he picked up in the first quarter, and I'm just giving that as an example. I feel like I lose part of the game, maybe it's my CTE, but I feel like I lose the story of the game. I lose the excitement of what I set out to start. And that's another reason why it's tough for me to do these hour-and-a-half games, because I literally have to sit here and go, okay, it's 5 o'clock. What do I got going until 6:30? Nothing. I can close my door. I don't anticipate any interruptions. Nothing, dinner's not scheduled during that time, whatever. And I can actually put my hour-and-a-half toward it. Because otherwise, I don't do well with half hour today. I know somebody actually even had a show about this. Half hour today, half hour tomorrow, half hour. I can't do that. I lose the story. So I wonder what you guys think in the chat. Yeah. And then Mike says, we need to get you in the co-op. I'm all for it, man. I want to learn a little bit. Well, I don't really need to learn the game. I know how to play a string maker baseball. Yeah, I need to get in, Mike. Let's talk. And then correct Skeens, Churro. I always say his name right, Churro. Joe Caminetti. Or is that Caminetti's kid? I'm not familiar. I know Ken Caminetti from back when the Padres and Astros. Is that his kid? See, I'm not great with today's baseball as much. Oh man, I got so, and that's tangent time here, but I've gotten so like not into current sports as much because of the salaries. I just think it's gotten so out of hand, so ridiculous. I'm going to use what I have always said. I was in Seattle, and 15 years ago, and there was this commercial that Gary Payton, Sonics, back when the Sonics were in Seattle, dribbling up the court and stops and tells the ref, hey, hang on a second. He looks over and he sees three white guys and this isn't a racial comment here, guys. He sees 3 white guys in suits and really just sitting, these 3 businessmen on the floor seats, and says, and kind of just says, come on. And he goes all the way up the stairs, and then all the way up this elevator. And he just, they're showing him doing all these things to finally get to the top row of the stadium, at Key Arena, the arena. And way at the top are 3 black kids who are sitting way up top. And he points to the 3 of them and says, come on. He puts the 3 white guys in that seat, brings those 3 little black kids down, puts them in that seat and says, okay, that's the way it should be. And I'm like, Gary, do you realize they can't sit there because of you? You're making so much damn money. Those kids can't afford that seat. Only those 3 white guys can. And you know what? Those 3 white guys didn't buy those seats. They were bought by their company, guaranteed, or a company that's trying to acquire them or woo them at sales. I know all that stuff because he used to do all that. I just thought it was so stupid, and he was so disconnected. He didn't realize he was making fun of himself, because they can't sit there. Those kids, who I agree, they're the real fans. They can't sit there because your salary. And I get salary isn't everything, and the owners are making a crap ton, and old white dudes are making too much money running a team, blah, blah, blah. I get all that stuff. But the reality is it's shot up like crazy in every single sport because of what the players are making. And our tickets are outrageous, $500 to go see a game because of the players' salaries. And I know they get TV revenue, and we can have an argument all day long about where the money comes for all that stuff. But you're not going to convince me ever that player salaries did not have a major effect in what it cost to go to a game. It did, and it does. And so I have, now getting back to my point, I have really just not wanted to be a part of that anymore as much. And tangent number 10,000, but I don't like using the NBA, for example. You take 17 steps and then dunk. Oh, you're so original. That's so amazing. I can't watch that. I can't. It's not basketball. It's lacrosse without the stick. I can't do it. Euro step. It's traveling. And And oh my God, look at him do that crossover. That's not a crossover. It's in the rules. That's an actual violation. It's called palming the ball. It's called carry. You carried the ball. But Allen Iverson made it look so cool, and the NBA didn't want to change it. So, yeah, I don't like that basketball. I don't like that basketball. So, and now you got a new commissioner in baseball messing with every single rule he can. I'm not saying some of them are good, some of them aren't. I don't like most of the new rules, and so I'm just finding it unwatchable for me. And so that I went off on a rant there about all that, but so that's why I want to, I love replaying the older seasons. And maybe, really these fictional seasons, since I keep replaying the older ones, how many times can you listen to the same classic rock song, right? You need something else. And maybe that's another reason to play fictional, is because you've overplayed all the other stuff. How many times can you replay Bob Gibson winning a bunch of games in 1969? But anyway, that I'm off on that tangent. But jumping in also, Mike says, oh, here's Skeen's number so far. 29. Oh, well, I think you should send that to him. I think he would be okay with that. What is he, 38 or something in the game at that point? So I bet he's really happy with those numbers, or would be. Okay, PJ is going to put me back into hockey. Thank you, sir. Hockey Blast, great game. Games League 67 Leafs with 1 win in the first 25 games. Whoa. Had a rare result of a power outage in the arena, and had the storyline that, unfortunately for Leafs fans, was power. Oh, that's great, P. Oh, that's some good stuff, man. I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's that. See, that's a great story. I love that. It's funny, but it's a great story. Never fails if I walk away from a 0-0 tie after 2 periods. When I come back, the teams will score 4 goals in the first 5 minutes of the third period. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. Yeah. Do you feel like you lose the story though? Did you feel like, oh my God, this is a big defensive game, the goalies are doing amazing, and you walk away and come back and forgot that they had that? Or are you still keyed in on the game? I wonder. John Wise, on the money issue, Ohtani gets, let's not go. Ohtani gets $75 million for blowing his nose. And whether that's because someone's betting on it for him, no, we're not going to. I didn't just do that. Look, the dude's an amazing athlete. Obviously, he can pitch and he can hit. One of the things we do with this hobby is sometimes take a guy and say, well, could he have done that in 1977? But we don't. These games can't help us with that. They really can't. Because what are you going to do? Take his card from 20, 25, 26, 25 in this case, and use that card in 1977? I mean, it doesn't correlate. It doesn't match up. But I wonder if guys like that, how they would have done back then. And you look at, and when I also say how would they have done without all the amazing things they have today. My finger hurts, and you got a trainer right there, 12 of them taking a look at your finger. 1977, Sparky Anderson would tell you to rub some dirt on it. It was a different world back then than it is today's game, and what they have access to. And they're popping out their pads and their iPhones and everything, and watching their last at bat and knowing exactly the percentage of the curve that Skeen's curveball does. I mean, those are stuff guys didn't have in 77. So, you want to tell me that Ohtani can hit 50 home runs in 1977 or back when Bob Gibson in 69, when that stuff was going there? Not without all the stuff he has today. He's not doing it, I don't think. Nope. He's got to come out there and just be Ohtani, and that's it. And one could say, with all that information that's out there, he's still struck out 120 times. So, there's that. So anyway, I digress on today's player. Thanks, John. Yeah, he does make a shit ton of money. What is he going to do with all of it? He's going to better anything. I'd love to see that. Same reason I don't follow closely the current seasons. Yeah, you're with me there, John. A little chin music, Mike. Dude, I don't even think it would be chin music. I've seen enough interviews with Bob Gibson. He would hit Ohtani on the first pitch. Absolutely. because he's going to say, this is my mound, that's my plate, and this is my 1969 season. And he'd hit him probably 3 or 4 times in a row. But yes, and what would happen to him in today's game? Gibson would be suspended for the year. So yeah, that's a good point though. So a little chin music here would probably be what would go on. Hey, so I want to just kind of finish up talking a little bit about, finishing up on what this was supposed to be about, which was about the mental health, and what you guys, how you decide to walk away, when you decide to walk away. And I wonder how many of you guys feel like you should have walked away and didn't. And then what happened when you didn't walk away? Did you post something on social media you regret? And you're like, I was pissed off that day, or I had a bad day. Shouldn't have been on social media. Should have walked away for that day. Or did coming back into gaming, help alleviate that day, that bad day. But when are times that you wish you had walked away, or maybe walked away from a project and you hung with it too long, just because you didn't want the project because you felt guilty? How many of us feel guilty when we stop projects early? Oh my God, I feel guilty every time I stop a project, even if I pause it. Like, I feel guilty about not continuing that 1980 right now that I had going. It was really going well. I don't remember what happened that got me off that. Something got me off that, like always, right? All of us with our shiny new objects. Hey, this just came in today, by the way. And then I've got this sitting over here that Mike's telling me, get on it, do it. The shiny object thing is a killer for me, absolute killer for me. I have the freaking attention span of a canary. Anybody know what the attention span of a canary is? Maybe it's really good, so maybe that's not a good example. But anyway, I have a really bad attention span. I mean, I can sit and if I block out all blockers, I can sit here and play 10 games tonight on my NHL replay. But if I happen to look over at those shiny 20, 40 leap set and thinking, I need to get those into teams, I can see me definitely doing that. So, I wonder how many of you guys feel that. Do you feel that? What do you do to not fall into that? How do you avoid not falling for the shiny object? We're going to have to give that a name. Somebody give that a name. The shiny object blocker that stops us all from finishing what we're working on and starting something new. Let me ask that also. How many of you stop your replay because something else came in the mail or became available and you jumped on that? Not because, look, you might have been having fun on whatever you were doing, but you stopped because the new thing came in. How many do that? Or you tell yourself, that's one I love. I do this to myself all the time. I tell myself that I am going to go back and play that. Like, I'm telling myself I'm going to go back and play 1980. And I fully expect to go back and play 1980. But I haven't for, 2.5 months. It's been sitting away. And I'm getting into all these other things, and I've probably started 4 new projects since. And it's like, am I going to get back to that? I think I am. But how many of you do that? That shiny object's a killer, man. It's just a killer for me. And Don jumps in again and says, I know I would. The type I start reading a book and it's the most boring book in the world. I feel I need to finish. Oh, so you're one of those guys who puts pressure on yourself to finish. And I wish there's a lot to be said for that, Don, because that means it says a lot about your integrity, in my personal opinion, that you push yourself to finish. You're old school. I bet you're major old school. I have not met you, but I would bet you're old school. And you tell yourself, if you're going to start that project, you're going to finish that project. You probably had parents who told you, you're going to eat everything on that plate, son. And so I wish I had that determination and that feeling. And so I think that serves you well. You shouldn't see that as a negative. I think that's what most of us would say, that we look upon that skill set you have and are jealous. I know I am. John says the next best thing. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Oh, you're giving it the name. You're giving it the name. See, it sometimes just takes my a second to jump in. The next best thing. I like that because that's what it is, right? It may not be. You may play it for 10 games and hate it. Not that I. Is it another topic? I'm sorry, I'm going to throw this out there. Has anybody ever got a game? You don't have to name the game if you don't want to. But have you ever got a game or a season and not liked it right away? Like pulled it out of the plastic, put the teams together, whatever it is, started to play it, got 1 or 2 games in and said, not for me, shelved it and never touched it again. I have never done that, ever. And I love to hear if somebody's done that. Again, you don't have to tell me the game, although I'd be extremely interested as to what it is. But, and maybe why that didn't connect for you. Because for me, and the whole point to that was there are so many of these great games, and I'm buying all these games because I enjoy them all. And so, John Turnbull started the show with, he's releasing something tomorrow, a new season tomorrow. And I'm like, can't wait, and I've got 3 things that I need to get done here already that, and so it just, the next best thing. That's really good, John. I like that one. You're in the lead for the pack for the name. We'll have to do that over about 2 or 3 shows here until we come up with one. But I like, you got this off to a good start. I have to put a poll up of what we're going to call that from now on in the hobby. But I like that. Keeping up with the Jones. Keeping up with the Jones. Oh yeah, that one, Mike. We can get a sound bite for that one, and use that one. Oh boy, those are 2 good ones. But yeah, that is, and that whole name also suggests the whole feeling like I do. Like I was talking about how I can't be away for long because I feel like I'm missing something. So that kind of fills in with that as well, because it's like, well, if I go on a cruise and shut everything off, how many games is Keith going to release in that time frame that I'm going to miss out on that everybody else is already going to be playing? That's a good one. I like that one, my friend. Here we go. JC, I think what you're talking about here, JC, is that one did not connect for you. Fall Classic Baseball. Somebody touts that. Is it? I don't know who touts that. Somebody really backs that game. I want to say it might be Kurt, but somebody loves that game. Wondering why that didn't work for you. Is there a reason that didn't work for you? I have that game. Quite honestly, I think I did play it a couple times and shelved it, but I think I shelved it not out of not liking it, but I shelved it out of, the next best thing / keeping up with the Jones syndrome. Something else came in. New payoff pitch season came in or something. And I changed direction. But I'd be interested as to why that didn't connect for you. But that's, and then JC says, but that was more I discovered. Oh, dude, that is just too funny that I said the exact same. That is too funny. Yeah. I could do a whole show on discovering payoff pitch. And all their games, all his games. Joe Bryan's amazing, and he's agreed to come on the show. Probably it can take a few episodes before it's going to work out schedule wise for him. But no better cards in the game as far as quality cards. Although these, again, really nice from Keith and play, but nobody from a price perspective / quality card that I know, somebody correct me in the chat where I'm wrong, can come close to what payoff pitch. Now I know he lost his printer. The guy who does his printing, and I don't know if anybody else has ordered since he's got his new printer. I haven't. I've still got three blocks up there for my block parties, which is, I love that name that I gave his stuff because it feels like a block party. Although I think he said with his new printer that the cards are more in teams now than before. There was a method to the madness, by the way, on those blocks, that it was it was each team, usually one player from each team. You could go through it, and sometimes it would start in the middle. You get to with the printer got weird on a PDF, but anyway, I was able to unblock his. Oh, I love that. Unblock his block, probably within 20 minutes. But yeah, payoff pitch. When I found that, that's what I created my 1986 season with, was payoff pitch. And that game kept me so. I credit payoff pitch for being able to complete the entire 1986 season, every game, every team, because payoff pitch had me so into it. I was so into that game, and I was so into the stories that it was creating, but the game itself kept me going. So it's funny that you mentioned the same thing. Don jumps in. I'm fairly new to the community. Okay, and I have a few games. I feel like I feel if I get a different game of the sport, of the same sport, I will never get back to the others. You won't. Not gonna lie to you. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's there's just so many good developers out there right now, and if you're new to this, and you haven't touched some of the incredible minds that we have in this, it'll blow yours. And I can do a whole show, and maybe I will one day, on every single vendor. And again, I'm not negative. I am. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not. When I post anything about a game or a season or something that I have, it's never. I don't post negative. I'm posting just to say, hey, there's this, there's an error on this card. It's to let the community know who might have that set, so they can fix it. They may not have caught it or realized it. I'm not ragging, the vendors. They all know I talk to them all the time. They all know that I think they're amazing. And so I only find, and I always try to find only the positive, because like I said, I don't really shelve any game. I think they're all fantastic, and they're all incredible for our sport. And Don, if you haven't tried some of them out there, maybe I'll do a show next week or the week after where I really showcase all these different gamers that are out there. And I'm going to throw one right now, because it's a throw out, because he's on the next show, and that's Ian Brook. If you've not gone out to see On Deck Baseball, but take a look at it. It's a little expensive. I get it. But if you see what he's put into that game, what he's put into those cards, and how that game works, and then hopefully I can get him to talk a little bit about this. He doesn't make squat off that game. He's basically pricing that game out as to what it costs him to print it out for you and to get the boxes and everything. He is not making money off his game. That game is fun. His only downfall to his game, in my opinion, is because it costs him so much. He has his look at it. He's only done one, I believe, one season. He has all these different kind of sets that are out there, like Hall of Fame sets, and then he just threw out the 1961 set, and then I was part of his league to do a co-op league to play that season out. But he doesn't have a bunch of seasons ready for you to pick up, and he doesn't know, and I'll talk to him about this on Saturday, where he feels he might or might not go with that. But the game itself and its engine and its ability to play it is fantastic. I love all, especially the baseball games. They're all unique, usually in their way, and he has found a definite uniqueness to his game. So if you haven't looked at that one, take a look at that one. And that's what stops me from trying other games. What was that? I'm sure. What did I say that stops you from trying other games? I missed that. Mike got back in saying, I thought about making my 2001 replay multi-game, but I haven't wanted to actually stop playing payoff pitch yet. Yeah, buddy. Isn't that amazing? That game is so beautiful. And and you'll see Joe on my show, or I'm sure you've seen him on other shows. Joe is the most laid back, relaxed guy you're ever going to meet in the world. But man, has he put out a fantastic game. It's just fun. It's fun. I think it's a hybrid, in my opinion. It's like a hybrid between Status Pro and APA, maybe. I don't know. But it's a really good game. If you have not touched Payoff Pitch, Bank Shot Basketball, also created by him, strategy sideline strategy game, something like that, is his company. Fantastic stuff he puts out. And I guess there's this whole thing running around about a PC game. I'm not a big PC game guy. I mean, I have Action PC and all their games. I've always thought it was kind of like cheating. I don't know why. It's not cards and dice. I need these in my hand. I know I'm playing Status Pro with the cards on the screen in my 1981, but at least the cards are right there on the screen in front of me. I need these. I need these in my hand. And I actually said something the other day. I think I was talking to Tom offline, and I encourage you guys to do this on Facebook. Ask another guy if you can video chat. Tom and I turned into an hour and a half discussion, just talking, him and I, just talking about stuff. It was fantastic. Same thing happened with Mike Ignikowski, who does the Purple Wolf basketball. He's got, I'm sorry, that's Purple Wolf. Yeah, Purple Wolf is basketball. Blue Lynx is hockey, and he has a baseball one. And we talked for an hour and a half, easy hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just talking on video on Facebook. Talk to the other guys in the community. It's like almost we talk about how great it is to go to these conventions and get to pull up a chair and sit down next to somebody and just talk. That's what those felt like. Those absolutely felt like that. Those conversations I had with those two guys, and that's why I want to put people on here, and get them to come onto the show, because there's no pressure coming on here. If you saw Tom on episode 2, Tom Abbott, he was, and he'll tell you this, he was scared out of his mind to come onto this show. It was amazing how worried he was to come. I don't really have anything to give. I barely play that much. I'm not really good on camera. I'm not really, I've tried to do some YouTube videos and I'm like, dude, all I want you to do is come on and talk. And you listen to Mike, who was on the show. Mike is just like, that dude can just sit and talk forever about stuff and never bore you. And he's just used to it. But I bet Mike will tell you the first time he ever went on a show, he was nervous. It's okay to be nervous, but we're all the same thing here. We're all just talking about having fun with play games or Payoff Pitch or whatever game we're playing with. So don't be afraid to come onto the show and talk. Everybody wants to hear what you're doing. Everybody wants to know what your story is and what you're playing, and they want to know your experiences. And just because you're playing Payoff Pitch, you can talk about Payoff Pitch and talk about what you like about the game, and it may get like Cards and Dice with Don. I don't know if he has Payoff Pitch, but he might be very interested in what you got to say. You might be brand new, but he's brand new, and he's brand new. And then somebody maybe, it never could be 15 years doing this and never touched Payoff Pitch. I talked to somebody the other day, all they've ever played is Zappa and Strat, and they've been playing since they were 6 years old, and they're 61 years old now, he is. And he was like, what's play? What do you mean play? Like play a game? And I'm like, no, there's a vendor out there called Play, Plaay. He's like, I don't know anything about it. Showed him a website. He was like, holy crap. And I'm like, yeah. And so this is getting that word out. And you would be surprised, just because you've been exposed to it doesn't mean anybody else has. And so everybody I've ever met, top to bottom, has something to give, has something to talk about, has some story, is doing some replay, and just talking about what you do with your replay, what you like about the game, maybe what you don't like about the game, maybe what you'd like to see extended with the game, or maybe you have questions. What would it be like to do this? Or what is it like to play an entire replay? What does that take? You can have questions. That's what the show's about. So anyway, throwing all that out there. And John Wise pops up with, I'm sorry about my comment on there about that issue. I'm not sure what that means. But Cards and Dice are done. I started out being a gamer and then turned into a collector. Beautiful other subject that I talk about a lot. I'm a collector. Sometimes I think I'm more of a collector than a gamer. Picking up every single set that's given, the shiny white, shiny new toy, right? But sometimes I feel like I'm collecting, because I'm looking right now over my closet, and I'm looking at stacks of blocks from Payoff Pitch. I have every single season, and it's most of them are still in their stuff, because for me, my head goes to this place. One, I just feel it. I like it. I got it. I was blessed with a great job that allowed me to buy all that. I know everybody else isn't, but I'm able to buy that. So I did. And I also want the ability, if I feel like playing 1983 payoff pitch right now, this second, I can walk over there and grab it, put it into Teams and start playing. And that's just for me. That works for me. The problem with that is I'll probably get about 50 games in him. And then Keith will kick out a new game. Damn him. Anyway, kind of want to wrap it up now. I know I've been on for a while. I don't know where my thing is up here. I'm almost 2 hours live today. I really appreciate everybody being here. Love everybody being on. If you have interest in being on this show, please, even a little bit of interest, let me know. I want to get everybody on because I think everybody, I've reached out to a lot of you already, or not a lot, but some of you already. And thank you again for Mike and Tom being on last weekend. And I'm leaving them out. How can I do that? Leave out the 49 quick decks. Man, was on last week or on the last show. And I love having his Grant Fines. And I love having that developer on the show. I'm more about the developers who are players too. And as you saw, if you watched episode 2, you saw how much Grant loves playing not only his own game, and I think he said he really only has time for his own game sometimes, but he talked about other games he does play. And if, we're going to talk with Ian about that. And I think Ian basically plays his own game, but I think he has played some other games. It'll be interesting to see if he does. There's nothing wrong with a developer playing only his own game. And I think it going back to what was said on 49 quick decks with Grant, he said he built his games for himself, not for anybody else. He didn't plan on selling them. And so why would he want to play anybody else's games? He's got the game that he built for himself. But so I understand that. But anyway, if you're interested in being on the show, don't be afraid. Come on. You can talk. Heck, even if you don't want to show your face for some reason, I'll take your picture off and you can just be on with audio. I don't care. The idea is to talk. The idea is to have fun. The idea is for everybody in the community to get to know each other more, especially since we're starting to lose some of these conventions. We heard Keith pull the play convention this year off the table. So these shows are really important for us all to see each other, talk about what we're doing, learn more from each other, and maybe get a little energized and get that mental piece off of us, or just talk. Sometimes just talking gets it all out, and you feel better. So anyway, thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate everybody coming by, and I will see you Saturday with some really exciting stuff from Marco. Those of you who don't know Marco, I feel sorry for you. Check out his YouTube channel. Marco is amazing. He's from Chicago. He does great replays on YouTube, really into his soccer especially. He's a big Bears fan, but he is fantastic. He's been on other shows. And then, like I said, I can't wait to really talk to Ian. I've talked to Ian a lot, but I can't wait to talk to him in this kind of format and let you guys kind of get some insight into his game on deck baseball. All right, have a great night and be safe.